going to hear from Governor Holcomb tonight. We've benefited in Kosciuszko County and in the state of Indiana from an incredibly favorable pro-business environment for a very long period of time. And what Rod and his team have done here at Extremity is just another indication of the entrepreneurialism that exists in this county. We've got 51 offices in 15 counties throughout the state now, but Kosciuszko County is still our home, and it will stay our home. And we're very proud of what we've been able to accomplish here in the last 150 years. So in May, we may actually get around to celebrating it. But tonight, I'm very proud to be able to introduce our keynote, interviewee. And I was specifically instructed to only refer to him as the 51st governor of the state of Indiana. But I'm going to deviate from script, Sam, so sorry about that. Eric Holcomb has been an exceptional leader for this state for the last 5 years. He has led, as we all have in our respective businesses, through 2 years of incredible challenge in the state house, and throughout the country. And what Eric brought with a steady hand and a thoughtful mind, I think has served us very well. And so we're very appreciative to have the 51st governor of the state of Indiana with us tonight, Eric Holcomb. All right, I've always wanted to do this. There's a great Seinfeld when they do a show, and this is my first try at that. I think I want to address a couple things, Governor, that this group is particularly interested in, and as I point to Mayor Tallmer, I will admit that he planted this question. And I know he was down in Indianapolis today, earlier today, testifying.
You about to take me to road school?
So US 30, it is critical to this group, and as you know, east to west at the state. I'm curious.
Oh, I know it well.
Yeah, you've heard from us a little bit. What's your perspective on the plan with respect to State Road 30 and its prioritization?
Well, can I first, with all due respect, this is just such a perfect night, just taking it all in. There's such a energy and vibe you got it going on. Obviously, you're doing a lot right, so I feel like I'm going to sit up here and tell you what you already know because you're doing it. When you read through the stats and the program, I hope you don't take that for granted, and just the synergy collected in this room and the results from it. So when you credit the state's made up of communities, and it's a partnership, and so we really appreciate it. And being able to see it and taste it, thank you, Kelly. My wife will be jealous when I tell her what the menu was and the company. Obviously, 30 is a top priority, and in a state like Indiana, fortunately, we have the funding to back that up. The mayor is, it's not just that he's persuasive, and Senator Mishler, very persuasive as well. I literally sat in the governor's office yesterday one-on-one with Ryan. I don't know if he shared that with you today, Mayor, but this is something that's not new to us. It's a top priority. We're going to get it done. It's a huge potential corridor for explosive growth, not just Fort Wayne to Warsaw, but all the way across. And so as we look at those corridor build-outs, we'll make sure it stays as a top priority. And that's why we're entering into the contract and doing the studies. And so when you look around the whole state, a lot of things, you take into consideration traffic count and safety and environmental, and you've got to cross every T and dot every I. We're on our road to getting that done as well.
Thank you. Joe, is that good enough? All right. Here we sit in another example of...
Does he have any wastewater issues or any...
No, we'll bring those up later. We're sitting in another new building related to the orthopedic medical device sector in the orthopedic capital of the world. And as you know, and you've been involved with us in our discussions at Orthoworks and all the good things that have happened here, how do you look at the orthopedic industry today relative to the future of the state and the role that the state should play in helping us preserve, extend, and grow this orthopedic business?
Well, once again, you can never rest. I mean, obviously, it's a sense of you've got the word pride up on this banner over here in very large font, hard to miss. So it's an enormous source of pride for the state of Indiana, no matter where I am in the state or the country or around the world. People know of Indiana because of your prowess and heritage. But again, you can never rest, and you have such a success story to tell, and people want to join a winning team. And the more that we, state of Indiana, you can share that, that's a good kind of infection. That's infectious, and it will continue to lead with it. We have a number of different sectors in the state of Indiana that really does touch into different parts of the world, markets, et cetera. But obviously RV not too far away, similar reputation, and critically important to our states, not just GDP, but most importantly, to people's opportunity to grow their families here. And that's I've told a number of people, I got to come back because, I came in tonight hot pretty quickly and, busy day, and I'm going to be going back, unfortunately. But there's a lot more that I want to take in, and truly is a model that rests on that orthopedic foundation.
So when you look statewide, but obviously we're sitting in Kosciuszko County now, and think about workforce availability, workforce readiness, population growth, a big driver of that. Where do you see the IEDC's initiatives and our broader initiatives statewide going to look for that workforce for the future?
Yeah, you may have come across an article that really kind of got under my skin, I'll just confess. It's called The Great Resignation, and it's not really the Great Resignation. There is an awful lot of churning going on, but when people say, where are the people? They're working. Quite frankly, we're at a 2.7% unemployment rate right now, the lowest in 46 years, 1976. As well as we've got just on the state of Indiana's website, job postings for 152,000 open jobs. And so you start to say, where are we going to find more people to get them in the labor force to raise that participation rate? And obviously we have to, as you've illustrated in your program, you have programs with K through 12, with your school corporations, with colleges, be it Grace or Notre Dame, or for that matter, the University of Southern Indiana. We're a target-rich environment for these industry pipelines coming out of our colleges and universities, Ivy Tech included. We have to recruit, though. Our birth rate, death rate in the state of Indiana from July 1, 2020 to July 1, from 2020 to 2021, July to July, was plus 692. 692 more births than deaths, anemic, right? So how are you going to attract? We in the state of Indiana, in the Midwest, I mentioned this at the State of the State address, are the sixth fastest growing. We brought in 20,000 people, netted positive 20,000 people. They're coming from other places in large part because opportunity is here. And so we're going to have to make sure that we're constantly trying to recruit more people, more population. That's why you mentioned the IEDC. That's the sole purpose behind the READY program. It was population scarcity, talent attraction. How are we going to get to where people want to live in a community, and therefore that's where they're going to be working close by?
And do we think within the State House and within your office that this theory of people leaving more populated areas, more larger metropolitan areas, coming to other places like Indiana, is that an idea that's going to come true, do we believe, or?
It's happening.
Yeah.
It's happening here. They said in California they literally ran out of U-Haul trucks. U-Haul said that Indiana was the sixth fastest inbound migratory pattern in the state in the country, the sixth best. And so once you get outside of the South, Texas, Florida, and the West, where they're literally in droves fleeing to those other western states, including Idaho and Arizona and all the usual suspects, but around them, Indiana, the Midwest lost 93,000 people. 12 states we gained 20,000, right? We popped out. That Midwest goes from South Dakota all the way to Ohio. And so when Michigan's losing north of 10,000, Ohio lost, Illinois lost 113,000 in that year period. We gained 20,000. It's draining to Indiana in a good way. We need that times 8 to keep up with the opportunity that's here.
Well, we can attest in Kosciuszko County where unemployment is hovering closer to 1.5%. RV companies from Elkhart are coming here to build plants to attract the workforce from Wabash County. And so it's clearly something that we need to continue to focus on. I'm curious, you talk about the net migration into the state. And when you go around the country and have meetings with other governors, individually or in large groups, what's the one or two things you hear from them the most that they think of Indiana?
Competition. I mean, when we get together, and I get together with them on a fairly, regular basis, quarterly with my Republican gubernatorial cohorts, and then probably twice a year with the National Governors Association, both sides of the aisle. We hold our own. We punch above our weight. They know that. First of all, I mean, usually I would say 3 things. 1, we're friends. 2, we're competitive. 3, we're different. And those are all good. I mean, so when I say we're friends, you'd catch up personally. You'd like to see how folks' lives are unfolding and how the family's doing, et cetera. We text each other a lot, so it's a very kind of friendly basis. 2, we're competitive, and at the Republican Governors Association, we rotate, but I was the chair of the policy committee. And so we share or steal others' successes and policy ideas. And, a couple days ago, the governor of Iowa, we were ranked number 1 in a certain category. They jumped up 7 spots. And I said, congratulations, Kim. I feel you creeping up on the pole position, but just understand we know a lot about racing in Indiana, and we know how to keep the lead. So, and she wrote back, you're hard to catch, but we're out to do it. And that's just kind of in a text summarizes where we are.
Right. So in that same vein, what's the one thing you've come away from those meetings recently and said to your team, we've got to do better?
Well, I would say workforce development is critically important. It is, and it's, you've talked about it already. We saw it in the video. How do we skill up? There's a couple things. 1, health is wealth, and 2, the more you learn, the more you earn. They're very basic statements. I get it, but they're true. And when I say learn, I don't mean you have to get 4 doctorates. I mean you've got to skill up for the job, hopefully that you're passionate about, that you like being at work, that there's a culture there that pulls you to work for your contribution. So we have to make sure, as a state like Indiana, our health matters across the board in terms of cost, in terms of access, childcare, all these things factor into whether they propel you or hold you back.
And so as you think about, and obviously at some level we're putting COVID behind us, whether or not it's truly behind us or not, and you look at what needs to be prioritized and accomplished from this point forward in the balance of your second term, what are the priorities you've got?
Well, it should be no surprise. I try to be disciplined and focused. And so we won't be herky-jerky about this or zigzag just because of COVID. We've been managing our way through COVID from day one. Obviously, there's been more challenging days throughout that process than others, but we've sought to have a balanced approach. And we never lost sight of what our priorities were, and that being, how do we pay attention to our economic development efforts? How do we, our community development efforts and our workforce development efforts? Those 3 fronts. Having said that, and it's not because of COVID necessarily, because we've, we had our best year last year in many respects in different categories. But we are in a time, a unique time of multiple transitions and modernization efforts. And for a state like Indiana, right where we sit, the epicenter, as you mentioned earlier, a state like Indiana that is #1 per capita in the country in terms of manufacturing, we better be #1 in advanced manufacturing 10 years from now. We have the luxury financially right now, or we benefit from occupying the position where we can afford to make targeted investments into helping our corporate citizens continue to modernize, as I look around right here. But there are multiple transitions going on, and that forces us, if we're going to be getting deals, big deals done in various sectors, there's an energy transition going on. There's when you go after chip and semiconductors, these are different types of deals that we haven't competed for previously. And when you start making transmissions one day and the next day you're making something else, you better be ready for it. And the IEDC, or Indiana Economic Development Corporation, better have the right toolkit. I'll share this. You and I, are history lovers. And my family has deep roots in Knox County. I have the front page of the Vincennes Sun commercial, where Lincoln, by the way, saw his first printing press in Vincennes. That's where our ancestors' roots grow deep. I have the front page of the Sun commercial from 1948, where my great-grandfather was in the door jamb of a blacksmith, him and his 2 brothers, who immigrated from Europe in the 1800s, opened up a blacksmith shop. They were interviewing my great-grandfather about all that has changed in Oaktown, Indiana, outside of Vincennes. And could he describe his impression? And he talked about, he was very optimistic, and he said, "The good Lord gaveth and replaced it with rubber." And he said, I used to work on horses and buggies, and now I'm working on tractors, and you see those brick buildings out there, they used to be framed. They're not going to burn the same way, the previous buildings did. And he said, the boy here, and he points down, he says, the boy here, he's making things already with his hands. The boy is my dad, who's about 5 years old. He said he's making things with his hands like airplanes. My dad went to Vincennes University, then to Purdue University, and he retired from Rolls-Royce, spent a career just trying to get aircraft to fly higher and faster. He learned it on a dirt floor in a blacksmith shop, right? And saw all the difference that was occurring outside the door jamb in Oaktown.
So the governor and I were talking at dinner about us both being history majors, as he's just made reference to, and one of us has ended up pretty successfully, and we'll let you decide who that is. No, but
it turned out pretty good for you too.
Yeah, it's okay for both of us. But I pointed to Lisa O'Neill, our chief financial officer, when you're talking about #1 in manufacturing, because I hope you hear this enough. For organizations that reside in Indiana like we do, and we have to talk about Indiana's economy all the time, #1 bullet point on our slide about the state is #1 state in manufacturing in the country. And that's immensely important and a point of pride in this county, but also throughout the state. So when you go to bed every night and sit there and think, I'm worried about something, what are you most worried about for the state of Indiana as we go forward?
It depends on the night. It really does. So much in this job, it offers 2 different things. One, it offers an enormous opportunity to do good on a scale like few others. I never take that for granted. 2, a lot of information comes to you every single day. And you try to, as we discussed, live in the moment and understanding the decisions that you're making right now and that you're learning from right now. That's going to be history soon, but it's going to affect the future. And so I learn about traffic accidents, I learn about fires, I learn about deaths, I learn about police shootings, and all over the state of Indiana. I also learn about cyber attacks. I also learn about, we just processed through 7,201 Afghan evacuees who put their lives on the line for America for years through Camp Atterbury. They look at Camp Atterbury like they're Ellis Island.
Right.
And their fear, when I would talk to them one-on-one, was, I have to have a job before I leave here. I have to work. I have to provide. I need to get skilled up in this new country, right? And so it depends on the day and the issues that I'm dealing with. But you get a cyber attack threat,
right?
And with everything that's going on right now with Russia and the Ukraine, and that's heating up, and there stuff happens, and you have to be able to respond to it. So, but if there was just one constant theme, it's how are we skilling up our workforce and increasing that labor participation rate.
So that's a perfect entree to the promotion of the fact that we get those 7,000 Afghan immigrants a path to Ivy Tech to find their training in their career. So
we were the only state in the country with one of these safe havens bases. When they arrived here, we sent our Department of Workforce Development permanently to be on the base.
Great.
Permanently.
Well, we want to thank you for being here tonight. You've been here several times in the last few years. The people of Kosciuszko County really appreciate what you've done for us, what you've done for the state. I conclude with one question that I've wanted to ask you since the day I met you, and I get to do it right here. What's up with the boots?
You want the long story or the... I'm a Taurus, I'm stubborn, I'm not changing. It's interesting, this is a true story, when I was sworn in, after I first got elected, sworn in, drove to the State House the first day, and state troopers here they'll tell you if I'm fibbing. We stopped at McDonald's before I went into the office, and someone asked me if I was gonna still wear boots now that I'm governor. And I said, I am not changing who I am. My wife and we had a long talk about if we do this, we're not changing who we are. And so I came in them, I'm going to leave in them, and they fit like a glove.
Well, so far, so good. Thank you.
Thank you.